We acknowledge that Tri-Cities Community Television operates on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Coquitlam First Nation. We thank the Coquitlam who continue to live on these lands and care for them along with the waters and all that is above and below.
Welcome to Tri-Cities Community Television. I'm Cathy. We'd like to thank the Poirier Library for donating their space today. And today we're going to hear from Mayor Meghan Lahti of Port Moody. And she's going to talk to us a little bit about several different things that are going on in Port Moody. Welcome to the studio, Meghan. Thanks so much for being here. I just want to ask you really just right off the bat, you declared that you're going to be running as mayor again in this upcoming fall election. Tell us why you're running.
Well, I mean, I've been the mayor for one term. Of course, I was on council for many years prior to that. But I feel like we've set in motion a few things that I want to see finished.
Yeah.
I don't feel like the job is finished for me yet.
Right. And so you want to complete those things before you move along, right? What's one issue that you believe matters most to Port Moody residents right now?
I think, when I think about it, it's not just Port Moody residents, but I think the economy is something that is on everybody's mind. So it affects us not only at the gas station, at the pump, at the grocery store, but when we go to pay our property taxes and when we're looking at what the city is delivering to us, we want to make sure that we're getting value for the money, because I think everybody is feeling it in every aspect of their lives.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree that they are. This is kind of a question for, let's say, a newer person, and like you said, you were on council for many years before, and your first term as mayor. What would you say that the top three priorities would be for Port Moody?
For Port Moody? Mm-hmm. For me, as the mayor, I think that the top three priorities going forward will be, to me, it's really important to further expand our tax base. So we need to diversify our tax base. We need to be looking at ways to bring in business, and we need to be expanding our industrial. For too long, it's been seen as not only a safe place, like a place where we can, where we have some solid tax dollars coming in, but also a place where we're assuming that it's going to continue. But there is a lot of volatility in the market, and there's a lot of things changing in the world right now. So I think we need to make sure that we have a strategy around that. We have a number of amenities that need to be, planned and built for the city right now. And the first one that comes to mind is Kyle Centre. So I think that building Kyle Centre and that whole campus is going to include a new park and integrate into the Arts Center. So I think that area of the city in terms of parks and amenity spaces is going to be very important. And I think thirdly, for me, going forward, we're going to have to get a handle on how we can address the congestion on St. John's. So we have a few things in mind, and I want to see those happen.
That's great, because 2 out of those 3 affect me. So I live right in Moody Centre. Right. Kyle is right up the street, and I'm right off of St. John's and Elgin. So that is really good to hear about that for sure. I think I avoid that rush hour time just because it'll take me twice or 3 times as long to get somewhere, and I just say I've got to go earlier or I've got to go later. I sort of work around it, but I think that being able to reduce that congestion there, and Kyle Centre definitely needs a facelift. I think that would be fantastic, just right up the street from us. Yes. So housing seems to be a major concern. How do you go about balancing growth, affordability, and protecting Port Moody's character? Because we live in that amazing heritage area as well, and preserving that is so important.
Well, and that's been a commitment for as long as I've been on council. I was first elected in 1996, and we, the community goes through different phases of change, transition, and for many years it was the Inlet Center area that was going through change. And I remember when I was first elected, we were dealing with Newport Village and Cedarbrooke and Klahani, and those were really contentious. People were very upset. They didn't want us to make these huge changes that would affect the quality of life and what they perceived to be what Port Moody was all about, the charm and the character of Port Moody.
Exactly.
And it's kind of funny because 30 years later, that's where most of the people in this community live now. And that's where most of the So a lot of people, while they have embraced that sort of new lifestyle of living in those compact communities where they're close to amenities and having walkable communities, they're pushing back on some of this happening in Moody Centre. And I know that the people that live in Moody Centre have been asking for grocery stores and a new and more daycares and more public plazas and a new rec center for so many years. And you mentioned where you live. You're getting a new grocery store almost right next door to you, so you must be pretty excited about that.
Boza Foods is coming in.
Boza Foods, yeah. So there's another large grocery store plan so that people that live in Moody Centre can walk to those. But we go through these changes. There's pushback, but I think that overall, for me, it's about balancing what the community needs, listening to the community. Every decision that I make is people-based. Like, so if I need to make sure that it's centered on what the community as a whole will benefit from, and I'm not interested in growth for the sake of growth. I want to make sure that there's benefits to the community, and I think that's what we're doing.
So what are some of your thoughts on density and infrastructure?
Well, I mean, infrastructure, what kind of infrastructure are you talking about?
Basically just keeping up with the growth, the pace of the growth that's going on in our city.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of conversation about, we can't be building more if we don't have the infrastructure in place to manage it. And I think most people are talking about hospitals and the fact that we have overcrowded schools and the traffic issues. But mainly it's the infrastructure that we're talking about is something that is provincial responsibility. And I find it really interesting because on the one hand, we have a province that is pushing and mandating growth. I mean, they've brought in TOA legislation. They've brought in legislation that basically allows anybody with a single-family property to put 3 or 4 units on their homes without, they've entitled those properties for that. They've entitled a large swath of Moody Centre for 8-story, where right now we have single-family. So there's a big demand by the province to allow for and to mandate growth.
Yes.
And at the same time, they're withdrawing funds for things like affordable housing and hospital infrastructure and building schools that are already at capacity. So I think there's a bit of a disconnect, but and I think that it's important for people to understand that we are pushing hard on the province to make sure that those infrastructure needs are met. But it's a separate thing. We're getting pressure from both sides.
So we're going to shift into a little bit of community safety. What are your thoughts? What would be the plans around the community safety, mental health supports, and emergency preparedness?
Okay, so I mean, mental health support is something that is a provincial responsibility, but it is also something that in our police department, for instance, we are looking at ways to integrate those types of services into our practice as a police department. In terms of emergency preparedness and overall safety, I mean, we have a commitment we have fire and we have police. We have a commitment to increasing our fire department, and we, in terms of the manpower, our members have been, we have a new strategic plan that looks at growth in those departments. For Port Moody, we have some unique challenges because of where we're situated and the fact that we have such a large forested area in Port Moody. We need to be really cognizant about the fact that we are at risk. We're at risk for wildfire. Interface is important, and we're also we're at risk for sea level sea level rise, and we have some areas in Port Moody that are not as accessible except for by boat if we were to have a fire, for instance. So those plans are always top of mind around making sure that we are prepared in case of an emergency.
Do you feel that Port Moody is safe?
Yes, of course. We have regular drills, and we have a very robust plan for emergency preparedness.
So Port Moody prides itself on parks and trails and the environment. How would you protect and enhance these community assets?
So we have, I'm really proud of the work that we've done to date, and I think people that live in Port Moody understand this intuitively, but we are among the leaders in the Lower Mainland in terms of our tree canopy as well as our parks. So we want to, of course, never take that for granted. We're going to we have plans to increase our parks, to enhance our parks, to purchase new land for park, particularly in Moody Centre. We have a plan for our tree canopy. In the last 3 years, we've planted about 4,000 trees on public land a year. And we have given away about 500 trees to residents every year.
Yes.
And so we are increasing our tree canopy, and we are planning on increasing and enhancing our parks through multiple plans.
We're going to jump into leadership style.
Sure.
And what is the leadership style that you've brought to council as mayor?
There's one thing that I've always been really a proponent of is good governance. And that requires a style of leadership that I bring to the table, which is collaborative, consensus building leadership. So it's really important to me that every person sitting at the table feels heard and has an opportunity to provide their input. Now, this council has been an amazing group of people. We have really locked in on a vision. We shared that vision, and we have remained committed to it. And in doing that, every year we've revisited it, we've tweaked it, and we've looked at where can we improve this plan. But overall, the plan has been something that we've been really committed to the vision on. And I think that having that ability to have a shared vision, and we don't always agree, but we are respectful in how we conduct ourselves at the table, and we may not always agree on how we're going to get to that vision or to those goals, but ultimately we make the decisions together. And I think that is something that I've always prided myself in that ability to sort of have everybody at the table and hoping that we're all in agreement when we move forward on something. It's not always going to happen, but it's something that is important to me.
I have a friend that moved to Port Moody a couple of years ago, and she lived in Coquitlam before, and she said that she found a lot of information like through Coquitlam about events and things like that, but she feels a little bit disconnected in Port Moody. And so how would you sort of want to bridge the gap between some residents that might feel a little bit disconnected from the municipal politics and what's going on right now? What would you sort of say to people?
Well, I'd say go to our website. I'd say come to a council meeting.
Right.
I actually have open office hours.
Right.
Anybody in the community or from any community.
Well, you used to do your walking as well.
Yes, we have a walking group
like,
where we
so you have open hours at your office.
Right.
Like I think it's about events and things like that. What's going on in the city? How come we're not hearing about things more? And these are people that are tapped into social media. Don't get me wrong; they don't live under a rock.
That's surprising.
But yeah, I think she was just hearing a lot more. Maybe because Coquitlam's bigger. But I also said, the website. There's different social media groups that you can go into, etc. So
I would check out the Port Moody webpage and go to our Engage Port Moody. Everything is on there.
Right.
All of the events we have, and we've just recently mailed out. And you've probably received it.
I did get it.
The Port Moody Focus, which has all of the events that are coming up.
Yes,
There's a lot of
great.
Exciting events.
Good. Well, I hope that she got it too. I'll have to message her later.
Hopefully, check back in with her.
Megan, what is one thing about Port Moody that you absolutely love?
The people. The people, and
I like that. You just came right out with that answer. So no hesitation at all. That was the first thing that came to your mind.
Yeah, the people are what really make this community what it is. But it's the people sharing that love of where we are. We are in a place that is absolutely stunning. We live on the water. We have mountains. We have we just have the most beautiful backdrop for our community. And, our community is very vibrant and it has a lot going on. And so I think people that come here recognize that. And yeah.
It's the people.
Yeah.
So in 1 minute or less, why should residents vote for you?
Oh, I think that, I bring to the table experience, right? So I can put into context things that, why we've made decisions and why we're moving in a direction that we're moving in. And so I think that's important. But also my passion and my love for this community is evident in everything that I do. I have a strong belief in good governance. I believe in making sure that everybody feels heard. And, my entire sort of, when I wake up in the morning, all I can think about is how can I make this place a better place to live? And how can I improve where we are? So I think that that's an important thing to have in somebody who's in the top leadership position of the city.
I completely agree. Today you are hearing from Mayor Meghan Lahti, who's up for re-election in the fall election. One of her favorite things about Port Moody are the people. It's the people that make the difference. So we do hope that you get out and vote in the fall, and we'll have more to come with our candidates moving forward. Today you are watching Tri-Cities Community Television, and I'm Cathy Cena. Thanks so much.